Good morning, students. Today we are going to learn a very interesting topic in English grammar, that is active and passive voice. Do you know? Sometimes the subject does the action and sometimes the subject only receives the action. The change in focus is called voice. So let's begin active and passive voice. First of all, beta, in our English, there are two kinds of voice. Number one is active voice. Number two is passive voice. Now, what is the meaning of the voice? Voice shows whether the subject is doing the action or receiving the action in a sentence. Means, if the subject in a sentence is the doer of an action, it is called active voice. And if the subject is not doing anything in the sentence and it remains passive, so then it is called passive voice. So here let us first come to the active voice. When a verb shows that the subject has done something, it is known as active voice. Beta, now you know in every sentence there is the need of verb, means a verb is must in a sentence. So that verb in a sentence, if shows that the subject has done something, means the doer of that verb is the subject, it is known as active voice. And passive voice, when a verb shows that the something has been done to subject, it is known as passive voice. Means when the verb shows that the subject is not doing something but it has been done to the subject, it is known as passive voice. Here are some examples like active voice and passive voice. In active voice, the example is Rohini writes a letter, and in passive voice, it becomes a letter is written by Rohini. Second example is Rohini wrote a letter, and in passive voice, it becomes a letter was written by Rohini. Let us take third example. Rohini will write a letter. In passive voice, it becomes a letter will be written by Rohini. So, beta, first of all, we have to follow some basic rules to use these active and passive voice in the sentence. So, the first rule is we have to separate a sentence into subject, verb, and object. As I have already discussed in the class that a sentence is made up of subject, verb, and object, and out of these, verb is must in the sentence. Now here the main role of the in the active and passive voice is of the subject. I have already told you that if the subject is doing something, then it is in the active voice, and if the subject is receiving something, then it is in the passive voice. Let us discuss later on. First, let us take the example of this sentence. Rohit writes a letter. Here Rohit is used as a subject, writes as a verb, and a letter is an object. So, in this manner, we have to write the sentence. Now, the second rule is change the object into the subject in passive voice. For example, here what is the object, beta? Here the object is a letter and the doer is Rohit. Means Rohit writes a letter. Here Rohit is doing the action. So Rohit is a subject. And beta, one thing more, we can change or we can make the passive voice only of those sentences where the verb is a transitive verb. Transitive verb means the transitive verb has a object also, means the sentences which have a object also we can change or we can make it into a passive voice. So here we have subject Rohit, letter is an object. So in the passive voice, we will change the object into the subject in the passive voice. So a letter becomes the subject in our passive voice. It is the second rule. Now come to the third rule. Here we will write be form according to the tense of the verb. We have already discussed about the be forms. Which are the be forms, beta? Like in present tense, we have be forms is, am, are. So on, like in past, was, were, shall be, will be, has, have. So all of these are the be forms. So after the writing a subject in the passive voice, we have to follow it by the be form. So we have to use be form in the sentence. Let us apply this be form in our example. For example, we have written a letter as a subject and after that it is followed by be form is. We are writing here is because the verb is writes and writes shows present tense. Already we have done our present tense. So be form is now. Now the next rule is write the past participle form of the verb. Past participle means the third form of the verb. For example, a letter is written. Here write shows the present tense, so we use always first form in the present tense. And in the third form, what it becomes? It becomes written. Now in the passive voice, the letter becomes subject, then followed by be form is, and then the third form of the verb, that is written. Now the next rule is we have to use the preposition by in passive voice. For example, a letter is written by. By means whom. So for connecting the object with the other part of the sentence, we have to use the preposition by here. So it becomes a letter is written by. And the next rule is change the subject into the object. Now we have used here the subject Rohit in the active voice. But now this Rohit as a subject will become object in the passive voice. So the sentence will become right now a letter is written by Rohit. So now come to the formation. In active voice, we will write subject plus verb plus object. So beta verb may be of in the present tense, maybe of in the past tense, maybe of in the future tense, but the rules are same for each and every one. So beta these formations in other tense, in all the tenses we will do in the next class. Let us do the simple rules in this class. In active voice, it becomes subject verb plus object. Now from the basic rules, we have to come to know that in passive voice, the object will become the subject and then it is followed by be form. It may be is, am, are, was, were, will be, shall be, has, have, had. And then it is followed by third form of the verb. Then we use a preposition by here and after that the subject of the active voice will become here the object in the passive voice. So like this it becomes a letter is written by Rohit. One thing more beta, personal pronouns. We have already discussed in the pronouns the one kind of the personal pronoun is personal pronouns. So the personal pronouns, what are the personal pronouns? Like I, we, she, it, you, they. So these personal pronouns will also change in the passive voice. Means if here the subject is he or she or it may be any personal pronoun, then in the object of the passive voice it will change. So it will change into him, her or it. So we have a table here that shows the changes of the changing of these active voices into these personal pronouns into from the active voice to the passive voice. Like I will change into me, we will change into us, he becomes him in the passive voice, She becomes her, they becomes them, you becomes unchanged, and it will also remain unchanged. We will not change these forms, like you will remain you in the passive voice and it will remain it in the passive voice. Now you just revise all the tenses with the formations that we have already discussed in the class, and in the next class we will do the tense wise formations of active and passive voice with examples. Now I am giving you some sentences. You have to identify whether it is in active voice or passive voice as a homework. So solve it and I will check in the next class. Here the statement is underline the verb and state whether it is in the active or passive voice. First of all, you have to identify the verb from the sentence and you have to write in front of it whether it is used as a active or a passive voice. These are 10 sentences. Do it by yourself. Thank you.